best NES games are known for being simple, easy on the eyes, and often of exceptional quality. There is one other term, however, that is even more prevalent with anyone who has ever played on an NES. The games are difficult, so much so that a term was created to describe this phenomenon, Nintendo Hard. Considered to be one of the most difficult games on the system, Ninja Gaiden is the poster boy of Nintendo Hard. It takes many of the conventions established by earlier NES games and tightens them up, offering a freedom of movement and speed not seen elsewhere. Ryu Hayabusa is a nimble protagonist and incredibly responsive in control, more than up to the challenges that await him. Ninja Gaiden would spawn a franchise that continues to this day. Often finding a place in top 10 lists, this is definitely something worth playing if you don't mind some old school frustration. Rare's N64 output was bonkers. In 5 short years they were able to release 11 different games on the system, all of which could easily earn a place in this series. For every Stone Cold classic there would be 2 more perfectly servable games to go alongside them. Jet Force Gemini was one such game. A hybrid of the third-person shooter, action-adventure and platformer genres, Jet Force utilises a control scheme which combines elements from all 3. It was made to be played on the N64 controller. An odd marriage, but one that ultimately pays off as the player is given the first adventure that offers just the right balance of action and pacing, as the sci-fi themes make for fantastic environmental variety. If it wasn't for having to play all the levels a second time to unlock the final boss, it would have come with a much stronger recommendation. Advance Wars was the West's first foray into Intelligent Systems' world of turn-based strategy and was a revelation upon its release, changing how we came to view strategy games on handhelds. Every piece of the game is fine crafted, from its map design to the abundance of options given to the player to craft their own fun. Advance Wars didn't need to revolutionise the strategy genre or rely on quirky innovations or gimmicks to find appeal. Short turns, small maps and quick save options made for an easy to pick up and play experience which gave players ample space to breathe during their morning commute. With an expansive selection of maps and play options, Advance Wars hit it out the park on the first attempt, instantly becoming a classic. A complete game if there ever was one, it is an absolute must play for the Game Boy Advance. Twin-stick shooters are 10 a penny these days, with fans of the genre being spoiled for choice. While not strictly a twin-stick game itself, there is no denying Berserk's influence on the genre. By modern standards, Berserk doesn't do anything special or innovative. It's the stick shooter played entirely straight, and it's all the better for it. The sounds of electronic beats and robotic digitized voices help enhance the game's tone and atmosphere. There is no music, only an air of silence that is broken by the sounds of gunfire, explosions and machines who insist that the humanoid must be stopped. Basic but challenging enough to provide a satisfying feeling of depth, Berserk has become a design bible for how to construct the twin shooter. Definitely worth your time, if only to pay your respects.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. The humanoid must not escape.
Depending on who you ask, ActRaiser is fondly remembered for different things. On one side, you have a simplistic but engaging simulation where the player cultivates the growth of mankind as they build and procreate from simple tribes into full-fledged civilizations. On the other, you have a clone of Tato's Rastan where players occasionally roll up their sleeves to personally deal with the monsters who terrorize their worshippers. Simulation mode is where you spend most of your playtime, as the relaxed pacing gives the game its one more go factor. The sim mode easily outlasts its necessary playtime while never outstaying its welcome, with the next action level always opening long before the player familiar tires of it. ActRaiser is a fine-tuned balance of action and simulation that is easy to rinse for all it's worth. Definitely pick this up if you have a Super Nintendo. Video games are a medium where success is rarely attributed to directors, as we look towards the company who made the game when handing out praise. Sometimes, however, a game buckles this trend, making the director a household name. Devil May Cry was directed by Hideki Kamiya, a man known for his admiration of classics such as Space Harrier, Gradius, and A Link to the Past. The influence of such games can be seen in DMC's design, as it hybridizes the palm-sweatingly difficult challenge and spectatorship of the arcade experience with the progression and level design of the classic adventure. This combination culminated in a landmark title that confidently displayed the potential for PlayStation 2 while establishing an entire subgenre of action game in the process. Some may find its combat aged after years of genre refinement, but there is no denying the excellence of Devil May Cry. Xevious was a game of firsts, one of the first physically scrolling shooters, one of the first arcade games with a television commercial, and one of the first games to contain secret items. But most importantly, it was the first game to have pre-rendered graphics, a technological feat which heavily influenced its look and feel. On release, Xevious was without hyperbole the best looking game on the market. Its detailed graphics and landscape gave a sense of depth, and the pre-rendered graphics gave the illusion of three-dimensional shapes. This came at a cost, however, in the form of environmental repetitiveness and the lack of animation on the player's ship. Xevious will feel aged to anyone who plays it now, and it may be too basic for its own good, but at the time it was a significant step up and set a standard that would be held for years to come. The late 80s and early 90s harboured a golden age for the beat-em-up genre. With the genre being an easy fit, Konami used its many licensing deals to pump out quality game after quality game. It was only a matter of time until the genre found its way to one of the most significant TV shows of the 20th century. To examine The Simpsons would be to examine almost every beat-em-up Konami made in this period. The Konami beat-em-ups were all solidly made games designed to be easy enough to complete while remaining difficult enough to continuously eat loose change. Despite its age, The Simpsons continues to remain a beloved adaptation of the source material, and due to popular demand even saw a re-release in 2012. Of the many Konami beat-em-ups, this is one of the more accessible ones. Definitely worth a try. Geometry Wars was a crowd favourite when it released alongside the Xbox 360 back in 2005 and would continue to remain a popular download, gaining a sequel in the process. While those versions would be well remembered, one installment that is often overlooked is the Nintendo retitle Geometry Wars Galaxies. Geometry Wars is a quintessential title for twin-stick enthusiasts, as it takes inspiration from classics such as Asteroids and Robotron 2048 to create a fast, sleek and visually stylish game whose explosion of vectors and bright vibrant colours assault the senses. Galaxies expands on the formula by adding a campaign mode with new levels and giving players the ability to train an option that orbits their ship to assist them. Galaxies is an excellent expansion and a must-play for any fan of the twin-stick genre. While the genre these days exists mostly as simulations and games about cookery, the job genre has given us many classics such as the 1985 arcade hit Paperboy. Paperboy's concept requires little explanation to anyone familiar with the real thing. As the Paperboy, you must deliver papers to the homes of your subscribers while vandalizing the homes of non-subscribers. Hey, we gotta have some fun while on the job. Being a paperboy isn't easy, however, as you have to avoid crashing into all kinds of crazy obstacles such as cars, cats, rolling tyres, breakdancers, and even Death himself. For a simple paperboy, he sure has it rough. The novel handlebar control of the arcade version offers an experience that can't be found in any other version of the game, making Paperboy difficult to experience in its intended form.
Whoa, where am I?
By 1996, gaming had fully embraced 3D and the race was on to create the third-person adventure designers and gamers alike had been dreaming of for years, thus beginning the 3D arms race. One of the games to come out of this arms race was Tomb Raider, one of the first fully explorable 3D adventures and a pop cultural phenomenon. Tomb Raider shares many similarities with the Prince of Persia. Navigation of the game's many levels relies on the same mathematical jumping position as in Jordan Mechner's opus. Tomb Raider is aged in both look and feel, but one cannot deny the excellence of its level design and world building. There's a great isolation that is only enhanced by the ambience and danger that comes in navigating around the ancient tombs and ruins. A surprise to many, Tomb Raider is still worth experiencing today once you get past the initial stiffness of its controls. Astro Boy Omega Factor is not only the best video game adaptation of its legendary manga series, but it also confidently demonstrates everything gamers have come to love about Treasure since their formation in 1993. Play moves quickly as Astro rushes through levels fighting wave after wave of enemies. While merely cannon fodder, these enemies are still threatening enough to give the game a real sense of challenge. Treasure's famous sprite scaling techniques return with Omega Factor showing them off in abundance. Level design is varied with the game dividing into platforming, shoot 'em up and boss rush style stages. Secrets are also plentiful and are essential for discovering the game's true ending. Finally, Treasure's novel approach to presentation and storytelling sees events come at the player fast, and leaves them with an intrigue that only increases interest in Osamu Tezuka's beloved manga series. One of Treasure's finest moments. Galaga is an important title in the shoot-'em-up genre, building on Galaxion's foundations to form what would be a defining title in the golden age of video games. Each level sees players take on wave of insect-looking aliens who fly onto the screen in a myriad of ways. The bees swerve steadily towards the player, the butterflies are aggressive and alternate speeds to catch the player out. Boss Galaga is the most infamous, taking 2 hits to kill and having the ability to steal ships to turn against you. Galaga's true depth is found from such features as captured ships can be retaken and used to double firepower at the cost of being a doubly big target. Galaga is one of Namco's golden boys and has been treated in kind, receiving numerous ports, remakes and cameos in the decades following its release. Highly recommended. A radical departure from previous installments thanks to directional changes and cultural shifts, Tekken 3 completely transformed the cast, tone, aesthetic, sound and feel of the series. The fighters had a look that better suited the period as they quickly became recognisable icons in the industry. The tone, visual aesthetic and music contained this hard rock grit that gave it its underground vibe in a period where counterculture ran rampant. Tekken 2 felt stuck in the 80s by comparison. The stiffness of earlier Tekkens was erased as Tekken 3 lavished players with a faster, smoother and more responsive engine that saw attacks follow through more naturally to better link them together into combos and strings. Tekken 3 laid the foundations for what modern Tekken would become. While the series continues to go strong today, there will never be another game to have Tekken 3's impact. It's a groundbreaking entry. For a long time, the concept of exchanging information across games was a novelty that only really took off when the likes of Pokemon and Animal Crossing pioneered the concept to wider audiences. Dragon Quest IX was a natural evolution of those concepts, as features like the chance encounter made it something of a precursor to Nintendo's own Street Pass on the 3DS. Without these features, however, Dragon Quest IX is little more than a standard but respectable JRPG. With the age of the game combined with the closure of the online services, it's very difficult to fully explore in 2019. That said, Dragon Quest IX is still a good game on its own merit, and I would even go as far as to suggest it as a good starting point for newcomers. As Dragon Quest games go, you could do far worse.